Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation this morning will be delivered by Pastor Todd Hernsberger from the Bethesda Community Church in Fort Worth. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges. Thank you for coming down this morning.
Thank you for the opportunity. Let's all bow our heads. Father, we thank you for this wonderful day that you have blessed us with. Lord, we always ask and seek for your guidance and wisdom and direction in everything we do. And Father, I ask that your presence be here in this place today. Help bring that wisdom and guidance, Lord, that they need to solve the issues at hand, Lord, and just be able to guide them in the right direction, Lord. And we just ask that you bless this time together, bless this day, Lord, and bless the county of Tarrant, Lord. And we just thank you for all that you're doing and all that you're going to do. And we pray this in the wonderful name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Agenda announcements, Mr. Mays.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have several announcements as it relates to the agenda this morning. First of all, under the Administrator's section, I'd like to cover these corrections all in one. Items 9A, 8, 9, 10, 11. All of these are seeking interim financing for contracts that we have through HUD. We're aware that we're going to be getting the money. We have altered the court communications just very slightly in that the ones that you saw in your electronic court book did not actually reflect how much money we were asking for. And your new ones, all of your new court communications do have that number embedded within the communication itself. Also, members of court, under purchasing, item 9H1, this concerns the sale of recycled paper. As normal on something like this where we receive the bids on Monday, there is a revised court communication in your folder as it relates to that particular item. And then finally, members of the court, just to remind you that next Tuesday, that in our strategic planning effort, we have a 7:30 breakfast with elected officials and department heads, and that will be held in the Family Law Center on the second floor. Thank you, Your Honor.
Boy, 6:30, you said?
7:30.
7:30.
Get an extra hour sleep. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of September the 10th.
Move approval.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have three proclamations or resolutions today, and then in addition to that, I would ask that we close our court today in observance of those folks that were touched by the shootings in D.C. Yesterday, those families of the victims, and also those who were wounded, really just anyone who was touched by that. So it was a tragic event. It's really my privilege to be able to deliver these first two proclamations. The first is for National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and we have we have a number of folks here today, and so we have Tiffany Martinez, who is the parent or is the mother of Maddie, and I believe your husband and her little brother is also here, and so Tiffany and Maddie, we would ask that y'all come forward right now. Also, Glenna Stone, who is the Director of Hematology and Oncology at Cook's Children's Medical Center, as well as Dr. Jeffrey Murray, who is one of the oncologists there. So y'all all come forward. I'm going to read two of the proclamations, The first is one for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and then the next will be a proclamation declaring this to be Maddie Martinez Day in Tarrant County. Whereas childhood cancer rates have risen slightly over the past few decades and is the second leading cause of death in children, and whereas in 2013 an estimated 11,630 children under the age of 15 will be diagnosed with cancer in the United States, and 1,300 are expected to pass away from the disease, and whereas the symptoms of cancer in children can overlap with many common illnesses and injuries that mask the early signs of cancer, and whereas major treatment advances have resulted in more than 80% of the children surviving longer in this decade compared to the less than 60% in the mid-70s, and whereas parents should be sure their children have regular medical checkups and watch for unusual signs or symptoms that do not go away, and whereas opened in 1918 as the Fort Worth Free Baby Hospital, Cook's Children's Healthcare System service area covers 47% of the state of Texas, larger than the entire state of New Mexico. And whereas the goal of Cook's Children's Hematology and Oncology Center is to cure children with the disease through innovative research and treatment advances, and whereas because treating children involves the entire family, Cook's Children's offers care in a family-centered environment, providing ways to meet emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs of the patients and their families. And whereas the good health and well-being of children of Tarrant County are enhanced as a result of the increased awareness about childhood cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2013 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we've heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed the 17th day of September 2013, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, and I'm going to go ahead and read the next one, which is the proclamation declaring today to be Marty Martinez Day in Tarrant County. Whereas courage is defined as the ability to face danger, difficulty, and uncertainty or pain without being overcome by fear or being deflected from a chosen course of action. And whereas Maddie Martinez is 5 years old and is very excited to start kindergarten, she's already started kindergarten, she said, this year at J.C. Thompson Elementary School in Hazlet. And whereas Maddie has been battling a form of cancer called neuroblastoma for the past year with treatments at Cook's Children's Hospital in Fort Worth, and whereas during what was hopefully her last week of treatment earlier this month, the entire cancer floor at Cook's Children's had a fairy tale theme week, which Maddie chose in her hopes that she and all the other children have a happily ever after. And whereas Maddie Martinez will be receiving the Kids Cancer Connection Courageous Kid Recognition Award this month for her bravery and determination to overcome life's obstacles. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby commend Maddie Martinez for her courage during the battle with this disease and wish her health and happiness for many years to come. And further, we proclaim September 17th, 2013 as Maddie Martinez Day in Tarrant County. In witness whereof, we've heretofore caused our hands in the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed the 7th day of September 2013. I move its approval.
Second.
And the motion passes unanimously by the full court. We're going to all, I tell you what, y'all all come up here and I'll present you with these proclamations and we'll get pictures. This is yours, and it says Maddie Martinez Day. Now, can y'all all, there we go. So turn around here and look up there. Can y'all see her? If y'all need to come around here, come on around here. There it is. Careful. Okay. So you can hold that.
scrunch up.
Have you got everybody in? Now, Maddie, did you dress up as a little princess, and did you have fun your day at the hospital when you were doing that? Is that a lot of fun? And then you've started kindergarten now, and you're having fun at kindergarten, even though she said they hadn't taught her a whole lot yet. They'll work on that, trust me. And I'm sure by the end of the year, you'll have them all on the palm of your hand here on this deal. So you have a great time. And then I'll be glad if y'all would like to say anything, feel free to go down there and to do that. But again, Maddie, thank you very much for coming. Did you get those blocks? You're going to take those with you? You're going to play with your little brother. Let your little brother play with it a little bit too, maybe? Thank you, boy. Thank you. Thank you. How are you, buddy? Y'all help Maddie?
Thank you, Maddie.
Here you go. That for you. Please, thank you very much.
Well, if we don't, we're going to just
He's here. Come right ahead, yes.
Judge Whitley and the court, thank you so much on behalf of Cook Children's Medical Center. The proclamation you gave today, and it's emblematic of Miss Maddie here, really is very touching. You know, we'll diagnose probably around 200 children this year at Cook Children's with cancer, not only from Tarrant County but the surrounding region. And everything we do at Cook is, with regards to oncology patients, is trying to cure them all. And I think your summary at the beginning of the session today was really well done in terms of the statistics and whatnot. So most kids are cured, and we're hopeful and prayerful that Maddie will be cured using the therapies that we use. So thank you for your commitment, your proclamation today, and we'll continue the fight that we've been fighting for a long time and hopefully win the war someday. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just comment, in my previous life as a CPA, I had an opportunity to work primarily with physicians and across many, many, many different specialties. And the one that I have the most respect for is the childhood oncologist. Just don't know how you do it, but we appreciate very much that you do it. So thank you very much for all that you do at Cook's. Commissioner Fickus.
Yes, we have a congratulatory resolution today to the Colleyville Police Department, and this was presented over the weekend. Whereas Colleyville Police Department is celebrating its 40th anniversary, and whereas prior to 1973, the city of Colleyville did not have a police department with general law enforcement and patrol provided by the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department. And whereas under Ordinance 072-101, Mayor Frank Whitmire and the City Council unanimously voted to establish the Colleyville Police Department. And whereas Council passed Resolution R-7251, appointing Doyle Incy as the first police chief in November of 1972, with the department beginning in January of 1973. The original department consisted of a chief of police and 2 officers, no jail, and 1 leased automobile. And whereas today, the current organization consists of 45 employees in the administration, records, patrol, criminal division, code enforcement, warrant and training, and personnel divisions. And whereas the department is an organization that values integrity, service, and innovation with employees that are dedicated to maintaining the high quality of life through community-oriented policing, not simply responding to crime, but on preventing crime and resolving community problems. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, on the occasion of this 40th anniversary, do hereby congratulate the Colleyville Police Department for being a vital part of Northeast Tarrant County for many years. And I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Anything else, Commissioner Fickus? Or okay, well, you're welcome to stay. We would love to have you stay, but at the same time, we know how exciting these meetings are. And we want to tell you again, Maddie, how much we appreciate you being here with us today, and thank you. And I hope you have a great time in kindergarten this year. Thank y'all. You're welcome. Commissioners Court, Commissioners, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have 2 public hearings. Joe?
Good morning, members of the court. Today it's requested that Commissioners Court conduct a public hearing to consider the placement of a 25-mile-an-hour school zone on Retta Mansfield Road in Precinct 1. We have coordinated with the Mansfield Independent School District regarding this new school, and it's located east of Lillian Road in southern Tarrant County. This facility will replace the existing facility on Rendon Road just south of FM 1187. The school will maintain the flashers, and Tarrant County Precinct 1 will maintain the signs as indicated in the interlocal agreement approved by Commissioners on June 11th, 2013 through Court Order Number 115412.
At this time, I will open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing to be none, then I will close the public hearing and ask for any action that y'all may.
A question before action.
Yes, sir.
Why was 25 miles an hour chosen? Aren't school zones typically 20 miles an hour?
Typically, our school zones are zoned 15 miles an hour below the posted speed limit. You're certainly welcome to modify that. However, we found that the more difference in speed than what the posted zone is, then the more likelihood that people will either not follow it or there may be actually an increase in accidents. So we typically post it 15 miles an hour below the posted speed limit, which is 40 miles an hour on Retta Mansfield.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The next one, very closely related. It's requested that the Commissioners Court conduct a public hearing to consider the placement of a no cell phone use when flashing sign in the 25-mile-an-hour school zone on Retta Mansfield Road. Again, we've coordinated with the school district on these activities, and the background is essentially the same as the prior that was approved through court on June the 11th, Court Order Number 115412.
I'll open this public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. Appearing to be none, then I will close the public hearing and ask for any action.
Move approval.
Before you make a motion, let me, just for clarification, because I think this is going to probably stimulate some action in other school districts. Can we, by law, do anything about the use of cell phones? Do we have that authority now? On a county road, outside of a city?
Outside of the school zone?
No, inside the school zone.
Yes, that's what the purpose of this is, for the sheriff to be able to enforce the use of cell phones in that
So we
school zone.
can.
Yes, they can.
The legislature passed that.
2009, I want to say.
I'll
2007.
second your motion.
You know, the city of Houston, for years, when they passed that law, they didn't put them up because they said they couldn't afford it. So they didn't enforce it. They never, I don't know if they're up to date, but
I don't know how the
years
enforcement
ago
works.
they weren't.
So we're doing this, and we're doing this on one particular road, one particular area of one particular road. I don't know how many other school zones that we have within the county that are not within a city already. But I would ask, I guess, that you go back and look at that, because if we're going to take this policy here, then there may be a desire to do it in other similar situation?
I believe we did that a few years ago when that law was passed through the Texas legislature. We came before you with all of our school zones and probably half a dozen of them. I think we did them all at once, but I will double check for you and make sure that we've addressed them all.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Members of the court, if we can go to the administrator section, we have two additional items for you this morning. The first one concerns a legislative policy statement concerning the reauthorization of the Ryan-White Act. This is a policy statement by the court itself. A copy of that is in your court book, and we're requesting that the court approve.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of court, on item number 2, we're requesting that the Commissioners' Court concur with actions of the Tarrant County Hospital District Board of Managers and approve an easement and right-of-way contract between the district and Encore Electric Delivery Company as it relates to rerouting existing easement and right-of-way, which is located at 1401 South Main Street.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm just asking this question from a standpoint of, is this coming to us because we have to approve it, or is there some policy that we have that has caused them to have to come to us with this?
We have a policy that requires them, whenever we do any acquisitions, that it come before us. Actually, and it's embedded within a court order.
Okay. And there's not a dollar limit on that? That's just anything that comes to us from
When
that
it comes to
standpoint?
real estate, this come to us.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Glenn.
I move to receive and file personnel agenda. Second.
A motion is second. Receive and file personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Lynn.
Doc. We won our high school game, did y'all?
We did. When you're from Arkansas, although I hated to see TCU go down, but when Texas and A&M go down the same Saturday, it's almost like Christmas.
I would suggest that he may be the one that put the roll tide on your.
You know, that might be true.
I will say they played A&M played a pretty strong game there. I'm not looking forward to playing either one of those teams as we move into the season. Go right ahead, sir.
We have three items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2013-146, the sale of recycled paper. Our recommendation will be to award the high bidder on a per unit price basis, awarding cardboard to WM Recycling at $130 a ton and sorted paper to Southwest Paper at $150 a ton.
Move approval.
Second.
Have motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2013-119. This is a contract for medical examiner supplies. Our recommendation would be to award to the 11 primary vendors and the 10 secondary vendors, meeting all specifications issued in a court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our last item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2013-125. This is a new annual contract for hydraulic repairs and service. Recommendation would be to award on a per unit price basis with a markup for price, awarding to the 3 primary vendors as shown in the court communique, meeting all specifications.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Dad, you'll probably need this more than me.
I did not do that.
Transportation. Ms. Green.
Morning.
Good morning.
Your Honor, we're asking the Commissioners' Court to approve the resolution and deed without warranty to convey approximately 1.062 acres of land located along Village Creek in Business 287. It was originally purchased by Tarrant County on June the 11th, 1883, as described in Volume 36, page 173 of the Deed Records of Tarrant County. and being further described in a meets and bounds survey description dated August the 1st, 2013, and attached to the deed without warranty and the resolution. This piece of property the county has had, it's like in a creek area, right there by Village Creek, and the city of Kennedale, along with several other agencies which are listed in your book, are creating what's called the Village Creek Master Plan Stream Restoration and Greenbelt Park Project. It's a public project to clean the streams and provide some community enhancement. And this is one of 58 properties that's needed for this project.
We keeping the royalty?
Yes, sir. We are keeping the minerals.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second item, we're requesting the Commissioners Court to approve the interlocal agreement between the City of Hearst and Tarrant County for the acquisition of right-of-way along Pipeline Road from Lorien Branch to Precinct Line Road, and authorize the county judge to sign the same.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Appointments? Court members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Honor. Members of the court, we have a number of briefing items for you this morning. I'm going to start out and talk a little bit about item A. It's that time of year again, or actually time every other year again, that the Board of Directors of the Tarrant Appraisal District are up for election and re-election. We provided you a court communication, and attached to that court communication is a letter from the Chief Appraiser as relates to this particular action. I'll very briefly try to explain this. First of all, there are 5 sitting board members, and we have listed those board members that are up there. We have the ability to nominate up to 5 individuals to be on that particular board. We have to make those nominations by resolution effective or by October 15th. So we don't have court on the 8th, but we do have court on the 15th. So I thought we might take action either on the 1st or the 15th, whichever you want to do, and we'll fax that to Tad. What we're asking for the court to do is to give us some recommendations on this. We've already received one from Commissioner Fickus. He is recommending that we nominate John T. Eubanks for that. Mr. Eubanks had been on the TAD board and had decided not to run the last time because of personal business, and I believe Commissioner Fickus, you've spoken with him, and he's interested in running again. We're not going to need to take any action at all at this time, but if you have someone that you would like to nominate, if you will forward that nominee to our office, and then we will bring those nominees to you in a court action probably October 1st, or as I said, if you want to wait till October 15th, we have that ability also. If we are going to nominate, though, we need to do that by October 15th.
GK, I guess this is what will be decided, but Mr. Eubanks, who I think knows most of these people, was told that John Fagan would not be seeking reappointment. So
I will check that out.
Fagan took his place.
Okay.
He left.
Anyway, Your Honor, this is just a briefing item, so if any of the court members do have someone you would like to propose, just let our office know.
Okay, thank you.
Great. The second item is item B. This is an update by the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
I do want to make special comment on the folks at Cook Children. I don't ever want this community to take those incredible folks for granted. They do incredible work. They work a lot with us because obviously we don't have a pediatrics program. And when you have a program that we do have clinic pediatrics, I want to make that clear, but when patients come in, Cook is such a great partner and they're a great institution. The other thing, without being somber, is I have to go and want to go into a building every day where people are going to hear news that they didn't want to hear. And it's a challenge. And to recognize the luxury that we all have with children and grandchildren and nieces and nephews, and the hope that Maddie's life will be as good as some of the kids that we know is important never to forget. And it helps me every day when I walk into the building to know that my life is the way it is, and some of our patients don't have it quite that way. So I want to compliment Cook. I also want to compliment Jack Beecham in the sense that he's a mentor in some ways, that he seems to be able to offend the entire room with his football comments and still get what he wants passed. I don't understand how that's done, but I'm certainly watching and taking notes. So I want to compliment Mr. Beecham.
Fell on deaf ears because he ain't here.
He's right out there. That's probably why he decided not to be here. Right. Well, when you offend everybody and then leave the room, maybe that's part of his mentorship that I will leave. A couple things that I wanted to comment on that I'm proud that JPS is doing that we discussed at our last board meeting is, the 1115 waiver is complicated. It's difficult. It's a new way of federally funding programs. It's a new way to create transparency within healthcare that says if you do this program and you reach these outcomes from a health change and a health transformation, we'll fund you. And you all have been updated. You all have played roles with the 1115 waiver. But on September 23rd and 24th, JPS is going to provide a community symposium where we're inviting some national and state leaders in on the 1115 waiver that they have in other states. Flyers have been sent to your offices, but we'll continue to remind you, you all are welcome. We'll certainly provide special recognition to you all if you have the opportunity to stop by at any time. But really, this is an outreach by JPS to communicate to the banking industry, to the community, to Chamber of Commerce, to folks that would see the residual benefits of an 1115 waiver and more money coming into our community for all hospitals and all health care. That could be hugely beneficial. So we're going to have that symposium on the 23rd and the 24th. And again, flyers have been sent out, but I'll continue to update you and let you know. And any time, if you all can make it, you're more than welcome, and we'll recognize you as such. The other thing is we have our second vendor fair. Last year, Commissioner Brooks spoke at our vendor fair. And it's an attempt by JPS to tell vendors in town how to bid and how to be aware of the programs that are at JPS if you want to be a vendor. We want to reach out to all communities. We want to reach out to all vendors. Obviously, an organization the size of ours, there are guidelines, rules that you must follow, just like you follow with the county. And we don't want anybody to exclude it because they didn't understand the rules, and we want everybody to follow the rules. So we're going to have our second annual vendor fair. Last year's was hugely successful, and we appreciate your efforts. And this year, we're hoping for the very same thing. And I know that you all have played roles, and Commissioner Wynn, we appreciate your efforts to do that. And reaching out to some communities that maybe did not understand how to deal with JPS is hugely helpful. So I wanted to let you know about that. The other thing is myself and the executive team met with our physicians at a physician meeting that they have on a semi-annual basis to give them an idea of what some of the expectations of JPS are in the future. We talked to them about our strategic plan. We talked to them about what we wanted to accomplish at JPS and where we wanted to go. It's an effort to constantly communicate with physicians about where we're going and what we want to do. And to that end, we want to communicate to those physicians about what we want to do with physician contracts. It's always a challenge when you do physician contracts because it creates angst, and I understand that. But really, the main thing in our contracts we want to do is create alignment that we're all doing the same thing. We're all focused on the patient. And then the second thing that we want to do is create a performance outcome that if they hit those outcomes, they can be properly rewarded. Both from a financial standpoint and recognition, and to understand that JPS is improving. And those performance outcomes, we're going to work with the physicians. I'm a strong believer that you don't want a CEO who's not a physician telling physicians exactly what to do and what their performance outcomes should be. So what we're doing is basing it on what some of the national standards are, what other leading institutions are doing, and we're going to meet with our physicians and go over those performance improvements and make sure that it's a cooperative effort as opposed to historically JPS giving a physician contract to a group of physicians and saying you have 8 hours to sign this, sign it or you're not here anymore. That's, in my opinion, a poor way to do your business. So we won't have that. You as commissioners and community leaders and judge will still probably hear some level of angst. You'll still hear folks saying, I don't like how they did it, or I didn't get this, or I didn't get that. Feel free to communicate with me directly, and I'll talk to the physicians and you all and tell you exactly what's going on. We don't have any hidden agenda. And I think there is a belief there's a hidden agenda because they've always, I shouldn't say always, there have been occasions in the past where they might have been treated with a hidden agenda. We just don't have any. So we'll go from there.
There have been hidden agendas in the past.
Yes, sir. I have seen a few of those, uncovered a few of those, and I don't like them. So that's all I have, Judge and Commissioners. I appreciate your time. I know you've got another briefing by the sheriff and others, so I don't want to take up your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Members of the Court, we could go to item C. This is an update on the Sheriff's Office Emissions Enforcement Task Force. I believe that Sheriff Anderson is going to begin this presentation.
We were told we didn't have the PowerPoint, so we're back online, I guess. We thank you for giving us this time this morning. As most of you know, for almost 2 years now, we've had this program in place, and we've been flying under the radar for a reason. We felt like that when a lot of this information was made public, we were feared that many of the criminals would go underground and we'd have much more difficult time catching them. The word is out. We understand every criminal engaging in this operation knows about us. We found in our last several raids counterintelligence where they're watching us. They know what's going on. The interesting thing about it is, much like the 8-liner problem we faced several years ago, knowing that we're out there and knowing that we're probably coming, they keep committing this crime because it's so lucrative. The money is so good in it that they can't resist, even know that we're probably going to come and take them and their wealth from them. You know, as I talk about this around to other law enforcement professionals, I always use this analogy and think about this, if you will. Imagine how good it would be if in law enforcement we had a computer that we could sit on our desk, or better yet, carry in our vehicles, that would actually tell us a crime is being committed. It would actually say a robbery is occurring or an assault's occurring or whatever. Well, in the case of the clean air emissions, we actually have a computer that tells us when and where these crimes are being committed. We can sit and look at it, and we can take it with us out in the field and actually look and see what's going on. We started down this path, as you know, with this grant-funded program, going in exactly the wrong direction. We felt like the problem that we were facing was a tremendous amount of counterfeit inspection stickers were on the roads. We found out quickly that's not true. People don't need counterfeit inspection stickers. They can get legitimate inspection stickers from unscrupulous businessmen who, unfortunately, prey on the less fortunate people in this county, the people who can least afford to pay the price that they end up paying for this problem. It is an amazing ride that we have been on. It's an amazing operation that has led us into areas of crime that we never suspected. Once you get into big money crime, it takes you many different places. We've gotten into the drug world. We've gotten into money laundering world. We've gone many, many places. Now, we're going to blow the lid off this thing today. As I said, we want you to hear about this. We want you to understand exactly how it works. The criminals know we're out there, but the crime keeps on continuing. It's very important that we keep this program up, and as you know, funding is being threatened through the legislature for this program. This county can ill afford to lose this program, as you're going to see the success that we've had and how many, many dirty cars are still out there. And not only are there dirty cars out there, but as I said, they affect the people that can least afford to do that. There are some aspects of this that Commander Canis is still probably not going to want to talk about, so we're happy to answer what questions we can. If you have questions and we can't answer them today in this forum, contact me personally, and I'll be happy to tell you anything you need to know about how we do this. But there are some parts of this that we still have a little bit of smoke and mirrors left, and we don't want to completely completely show our hand. So with that, I'm going to bring Commander Tim Canis up here, and I'll ask him to give you a short presentation, and we'll be available to answer any questions you have about it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Good morning.
Morning.
As the sheriff said, I'm Tim Canis. I'm the commander of the Emissions Task Force. And, good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
We certainly appreciate the opportunity to update you on our program. We've worked really hard for the last about 19 months, and we'd like to share some of that work with you that we've done. Today's presentation, I'm going to start off with, some federal guidelines, and I'll get down to state and local. I'll talk about some of the laws that the people are violating and how they're doing it. I'll talk about our unit, and I'll talk about one specific case. I'll do a small case study, and then I'll show some photographs of some things that we've run into, and then I'll give some statistics of the program. Then I'll open it up for y'all to ask questions if you need to. So, let's see. Our unit, we were fully operational in February 2012. I was hired in October 2011. And my sergeant and my investigators and my admin staff were hired about December of 2011. We had to get equipment and funding and different things like that, as y'all know, as the funding comes through here for your approval. We got up and going about February 2012. That was our first warrant that we ran. When you look at the clean air programs across the country, there are, Texas got into it in about 2008. The federal guidelines were actually enacted in 1990 through the EPA. EPA sent it down to the state level, which in our state is TCEQ, and TCEQ administers those for us in the state. It started in 1990. The air standards at that time, you only had to maintain the air standard for about an hour. Now you have to maintain the air standard in 2012 for 8 hours. From the very beginning in 91, Tarrant County was a non-attainment county, which means the air quality did not meet the EPA standards. So it was early on that we were determined that we were. When you look at the state level, the fund was created in 1991, and in Texas, that's the Clean Air Fund number 151 is what they call it in the Legislative Budget Board. It was created to receive the funds from the federal and from the state funding so that we could do our air pollution business. State statutes were generated in Texas Health and Safety Code, Chapter 382, to let us know where the money's going and what it can be spent for. DPS collects the funds off of every inspection that goes through. Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, administers those funds to different programs around the state. Part of the program that they run, which is run out of COG, is the Air Check Texas program, and that's part of the LIRAP funds. LIRAP includes vehicle repair and replacement. If you bring your vehicle into an inspection shop and they tell you that you need a catalytic converter or an O2 sensor and it won't pass without it, you can apply with COG and get a voucher for up to $600 to repair your vehicle. If you decide you don't want to repair your vehicle and you'd like to have some money to get a new vehicle, they will give you up to $3,500, depending on your situation, for replacement of that vehicle with a new vehicle. LIRAP funds also include, besides the vehicle repair and replacement, they also include the LIP, which is the Local Initiative Project, which is my unit. That's how we're funded. And our LIP enforcement, as I said, began in 2012. Next slide, please. Okay. Dallas-Fort Worth, as we said, the whole region is certified as a non-attainment area for air quality. Dallas County started their program in 2008. We began ours in 2012, late 2011. Next slide, please. Okay. TCEQ did this chart. This is their statistics. And one of the reasons why that we spend a lot of our time on enforcement of passenger cars and trucks is because most of the air pollution comes from passenger cars and trucks, the on-road mobile sources. So that's how we affect it as much as we do, because that's what we mainly go after. In Texas, there are 17 counties that do emissions enforcement or emissions testing. And So there the counties are there, and of course, we're listed on there as well. If you, let me see, yeah. Okay, in Texas, there are two types of inspections. There's a safety-only inspection, and then there's a safety and emission inspection. Safety only is in those areas that are attainment areas, and that's just checking your windshield wipers, your brakes, your brake lights, your tires, your horn, different things like that. In the safety and emission counties, they do that very same safety test, and then they also do an emission test to see how your car is as far as the air quality. So Tarrant County clearly is a safety and emission county. One of the reasons why we take it so seriously is the safety part as well. There are a lot of cars out there, and we'll show some statistics here of a rough estimate of what we believe how many cars there are out there that have either fraudulent, counterfeit, or fictitious certificates on them. But the reason why is there's a lot of unsafe vehicles out there. They could be behind you, they could be in front of you with bad brakes, bald tires. You just don't know how they've been inspected. The state of Texas sets and regulates the fees for inspection, and as you'll see, those are how the fees are generated. If you look at the bottom of the screen, estimated annual revenue from us, just from Dallas-Fort Worth, is about $53 million. Tarrant County produces about $17 million of that on inspections, and Dallas County is the other $36 million. What we face here in Tarrant County, there are 625 inspection stations, roughly, between 625 and 650. It just depends on which statistics you look at, here in Tarrant County. We do know that we're responsible for about 1.2 million vehicle inspections annually here in the county. Of those, we estimate that about 20% are either fraudulent, counterfeit, or fictitious certificates. So about 240,000 of that number, if you do the math, is roughly what we believe are out there. In Tarrant County, in Dallas County, the fraudulent emission inspections can go from anywhere from $80 to $120. Over here, it's about between $60 and $80 is what they do. So the last point on the slide, the $14.4 million estimate, is based on a very conservative estimate of $60 per sticker. So we conservatively estimate that there's about $14 million in criminal enterprise occurring every year. When we first got into this, we had no idea that it was this prevalent. Before I took this job, when I looked at the job opening, I thought, what does an emissions task force do? So I started studying and looking and researching, and I realized this is a huge problem. And it's a huge problem not only for air quality, but, I mean, there are people with asthma and other breathing disorders that this really affects them. It's a safety issue with the vehicles on our roadway, and it also affects our funding in the state and local highway from the federal government. So it has a broad-reaching effect for us and the quality of life that we have in the community. Next slide, please. Okay. I talked about fictitious and counterfeit certificates. Dallas has a bigger problem with the counterfeits than we do, although we have run into them. The upper left-hand corner, you see the June of 2014 certificate there. That was one that we arrested a suspect out of Arlington who was selling those. That is actually a really, really good counterfeit that you see there. On the bottom one, that came from Travis County. I don't know if that person passed third grade art or not, but that's not very well done. So there's a huge difference in there, in those. As we look at the next slide, we'll see where they've tried to counterfeit the top one, where they'll use a different number for the sticker, and it's just off on the font. And on the bottom one is a valid sticker. So we have run across those, but mainly the issue that we face is clean scanning. And what is a clean scan? A clean scan is when the shop takes or is presented with a vehicle that will not pass inspection. And whether that vehicle is from an individual who brings the vehicle in, or if it is from a car dealership that brings it in. And they have a dilemma. They've got to pass it, and they want to make money doing it. So what they do, they charge them extra. And they hook up a car that they know will pass inspection to the car that that they will, and then they manipulate the analyzer to indicate the vehicle information of the car that will not pass, and they generate a certificate and put it on there. There have been times when, in each shop that does this offense has their own surrogate vehicles. Sometimes those surrogate vehicles have problems, the battery won't start, something in the vehicle, it won't work for that day. But they want to continue clean scanning. If they're a tire shop or oil change shop or they do other automotive repair in that shop, what they'll do is, let's say you bring your car in to get your oil changed, and then you leave and come back here and you leave it there a couple hours and you come back. They've been known to use the customer's vehicles as a surrogate vehicle to do clean scans, and you'll never know it. And the customer never knows it either. So that's what a clean scan is, and that's the biggest issue here in Tarrant County is the clean scans. It is astronomical. We've closed about 35 inspection stations and about 4 car lots that are involved in this. And as we look at the information, they're still out there. Now, they're not as prolific as they were, but they're still there. And it's very widespread, a lot more than what we had anticipated at the beginning of the program. So it's still out there. When I talk about the emission equipment, this is an analyzer. That's what it looks like. That's what they hook the cord to when they do it. Depending on the year model of the car, they may have to have the engine under a load when they do the inspection test, and if they do, they use a dynamometer, which we call a dyno, but that's what the picture of that looks like. And then there's another picture of a dyno there. Our very first operation was on February the 14th, Valentine's Day of 2012. So we aptly named it Operation Broken Heart. So it was on East Lancaster, about the 4,000 block at an inspection station. Those are the 4 of the suspects that were arrested. It was, as I said, in the 400 block or 4,000 block of East Lancaster. They were the most prolific clean scan operation in Tarrant County at the time. They were number 1 on the list, and they were doing 600 cars a month. They're not even supposed to get 600 stickers from DPS in a month. They're only supposed to get 150, but somehow they were doing 600 a month. We made 4 arrests. We charged them with engaging in organized criminal activity. We took all their equipment and all the cash that they had on hand. We took 2 analyzers, their dynamometer, and their surrogate vehicle. What we found here, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get into asset forfeiture, but what we found here is we take everything in that shop. So we take it for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's part of our criminal case. It's evidence. And number 2, we do asset forfeiture on there through Chapter 59. And so our intent is, if we can prove both cases, we seize that property and we either keep it or auction it off. So that was our very first one, and they are, we've had others. Next slide, please. We've had others, that were, 400, 500, but nobody as prolific as that. Next slide, please.
He must be out.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. This slide and the next slide, these are just frontal pictures of the shops that we've hit. And they're all over the county. They're in Fort Worth, Arlington, Forest Hill, Crowley, you name it. We've hit them. And it's been an amazing adventure to see what you walk into when you go in those shops. These statistics are through August of last month, and actually they've increased some since this slide was created. To date, as of August 31st, we had about $80,000 in currency that we have seized, 57 vehicles. We've hit 35 stations. We made 77 arrests, and we've seized 34 analyzers and 31 dynamometers.
57 vehicles, are those vehicles that they were using that you can tell? Because as I understand it, when they hook that thing up to the computer, the car tells you what the ID number is.
Yes.
On the deal. So you can tell if they're using a car consistently.
Yes, sir.
And that's one of the car. Can you seize that car?
Yes, sir. We can. Oops. Okay. There's shots of the vehicles, some of them that we've seized up there. They use the surrogate vehicles. There's the dynamometers on the upper right-hand corner, and then below that, those are the analyzers that we've seized as well. Okay. Oops. This is the air quality graph from, this is directly from TCEQ, 2011 versus 2012. And we were operational 11 months out of 2012. The graph looks like a huge decrease. It's about 7%. I blew it up so you could see the 10.9 down to 10.2 a little easier. We're not taking credit for that whole 7% decrease. We realize there are other programs that are in place, like Air Check Texas, that, you know, the vehicle repair and replacement, the idling ordinances around, the mass transit things that are taking place and in the works that help reduce air pollution. But enforcement is a big part of knocking down the air pollution as well. So it is making, you know, a difference, and, you know, we're glad to see that. As we've done some of these raids, you know, as the sheriff said, we've run into guns, drugs, other criminal enterprises that people do. We've had the Auto Theft Task Force out about 3 times on different things when there were stolen vehicles in the shop. And so there's just a lot of far-reaching offenses that come from this. They keep ledgers and notes just like a regular business. Of course, Your Honor probably keeps a lot better notes than that in the county business. But they tried to keep track of who they sold the certificates to and how much they paid for them. That makes our case a lot easier, and it makes Mr. Collins' case a lot easier as well. This is an interesting one. This was one in Arlington, and this particular lot, they did automotive repair, and they also did inspections. They had a lot, as you see there, it was part of their property, and they probably had 50 cars out there. In the middle of the 50 cars, the maroon truck in the middle is what they used as their surrogate vehicle. So they hooked the cord to there, they buried it in some places, and in some places, they just ran it along the line right there. As you can see, I put an arrow there where you could see it. It ran probably about 90 feet into the shop, and right there is where they hooked up the car inside. So it was interesting for us to know that they went to that great a detail to try to hide what they were doing. It was just a whole interesting thing for us. It's amazing the amount of cars and the volume of cars that they do. It's a big business, much bigger than we thought. I'd like to give you just a few highlights, and this is our last slide, and then I'll open it up for any questions that anybody has. But, you know, we're proud of what we've done. We're the only program in Texas that is fully used in the asset forfeiture laws. We take everything, and we wait for the criminal case to finish, and then we pursue the asset forfeiture laws through the civil courts. And we've been awarded a lot of property. In our opinion, that's the only way you're going to stop the business, because that's a sizable investment they have to buy all that equipment. Brand new, that equipment's probably $50,000, and used, it's at least $15,000 to $20,000. So there's a sizable investment they have. So we take those if we can prove that criminal link. We're the first program in the state to file engaging in organized criminal activity, which is mainly when you think of that, you'll think of gang activity and robbers and different things that do organized criminal activity. And I can't say enough about the district attorney's office. That last point right there, before I even came in, the decision was made that all of those cases would go to the fraud unit or the economic crimes unit. So they're a specialized unit. That's all they deal with. And it's a lot better for us and for them than just going in through regular intake. Intake has some great attorneys, but there's turnover there, and you have to keep explaining the elements of the offense. So it's much better when you have a specialized unit that's what they do. They do fraud. They understand it. We had to make sure that we understood it first and that it would relate to elements and how we wanted to charge people. And then we met with Tanya Harlan over at the district attorney's office in economic crimes, and we hashed it all out, and we got them on board, and they are absolutely phenomenal at taking these cases and prosecuting them. And that's the next step in it that we really don't have a whole lot of control over, but we certainly appreciate everything they do for us, and they do a fantastic job. That concludes what I had to present to you, and I'll open it now for questions if y'all have any questions of me.
I just want to say that you have made a great presentation today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very precise and to the point.
You indicated that the equipment we could, sold used would be $15,000 plus. Are we selling the equipment?
Yes, sir. Actually, Mr. Beecham, if I may mention his name in this company. No. Mr. Beecham's office is helping us with auctions, and we've just gotten the equipment awarded to us to where we're putting it in an auction. Now, we may not get that amount for it, and we realize that, but, yes, we are auctioning them off and keeping the proceeds.
How do we know that we're not just recycling that equipment in the same criminal economy?
That's a very good question. One of the things that we were concerned about was precisely that. What we do is when we auction it off, and we talked with purchasing about this and Mr. Beecham, is we didn't want that to happen. So we sell it to people who are in the business of reselling it, people that sell used products. So it may eventually get back to them, but they're going to be paying their $10,000 or $15,000, and they're not going to be paying $1,000 to $2,000 or $5,000 to get it back. They're going to have to go through the auction. We sell it to the company that sells it to them, so it's kind of a step in there. We hope that is enough to preclude them from getting it back, but it may not be eventually. But they would be out a sizable amount of money to do that.
Mr. Beecham has risen.
Oh, he has. Okay.
Probably the wrong terminology. We brought to court already, asked for permission sale of used dynamometers. We will bring that bid back to the court for your approval. We'll be sure that they're legitimate companies and doesn't fall in the wrong hands again. So we've talked about that. It'll be a clean process. Don't do that very often. We're going to contact companies throughout the automobile dealerships, reputable organizations that would maybe have some more money to buy equipment like that.
So as funding becomes tighter, I mean, what I hear you saying is you're at least funding a good part of, or could be funding a good part of the cost of this task force out of the forfeitures.
Well, that's what we hope to do, but, in Texas, you can't fund salaries with that, and, salary and benefits are the biggest part of any operation that you run, but we can fund other things. So, yes, that is our intention once we build it up, that we'll be able to put it back into the program.
We have some real problems with that because I think what the commander said, we collect $50-some-odd million in the Metroplex, and that goes to the state, and the state does not take that money and put it right back into the program. They have used it to balance their budget, and we are consistently getting cut from our revenues from the state as it relates to this task force and the entire LIRAP program. It's not that there isn't money available to fund this thing from the state. They're simply not giving us the money back. And that's important because this task force, your annual budget is about $400,000, somewhere in there. And we're going to be in real jeopardy in funding this thing next year because we've been using a lot of cash carry forward on that. And,
have we made a point of getting with each one of our local legislators and detailing out that, making a presentation very similar to this to them?
We haven't made a presentation to them, but we have been communicating with them.
I think we need to make a point of getting with each one of them individually and making that presentation. Because I agree with Commissioner Fickus. This was a good presentation and one that they need to see individually so they can put pressure on their colleagues as they're doing that.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you, Sharon. Members of court, we can now go to item D. This is a briefing on the 911 Emergency Assistance District annual budget. Mr. Petrie is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Your Honor, Commissioners, Mr. Manius and staff, thank you for the opportunity to brief you this morning concerning our FY 2014 budget of the Tarrant County 911 District. Since the first call was answered on August the 2nd, 1987, over 50 million 911 calls have been processed through the system, and we've never raised our service fee. The district was created in 1984 for the express purpose of providing 911 equipment and services for police, fire, and EMS departments in Tarrant County, later including Irving and DFW Airport. In August 1987, as I mentioned before, enhanced 911 service was implemented throughout Tarrant County. As defined by our enabling legislation, a 7-member appointed Board of Managers governs the district, and one of those members also represents a major service supplier. As you're well aware, Mr. Rick Brunson is the Tarrant County's representative to our board, and I very much appreciate his service. Our 2013-2014, or FY 2014 budget has been crafted to support the district's forward movement in a number of critical areas. Planned progress on the next generation of 911 services through continued interaction with our user base, proof of concept projects, and development of an IP-enabled network, and upgrades to customer premise equipment that supports the migration to the next generation of 911 services. And I'm very pleased to report that we're making some very good progress on that. Continued emphasis on increased wireless 911 reliability through continued wireless accuracy testing, testing of new wireless devices, and services and expansion of wireless one-on-one training, or as we call it, Where's Waldo training. Over 85% of our calls come from wireless devices, so it's very important that wireless be emphasized. Continued efforts to assist in reducing personnel costs of our member agencies through assistance in recruitment, pre-hire testing, training, and retention programs. And continuing focus on continuity and continuation of operations through our regional relocation site strategy, which you assist us in 2 locations, and an expanded program of on-site power support to enhance the ability of a PSAP, or Public Safety Answering Point in this particular case, to remain in their primary facility and sustain normal operations during limited commercial power failure incidents. This map is very hard to see on the screen. I hope it's a little easier to see on your. This is a map of the district. The district, as I mentioned before, encompasses all of Tarrant County and any city that has any jurisdiction or any landmass inside Tarrant County. Also, all of Grand Prairie, Irving, and DFW Airport. About 2.2 million population area. As I've mentioned earlier, we have 51 public safety answering points that we support, 32 primaries, 6 secondary, 11 backup, and 2 training. There are 41 member entities, 38 cities, Tarrant County, DFW Airport, and Naval Air Station, JRB in Fort Worth, or Carswell as most of us know it. Population of about 2.2 million district-wide, 1,100 plus square miles. There are 980,000 wireline database records, and unfortunately those are declining each year. More and more people are doing away with their hardwired telephone and going to wireless only, much to my dismay, both of my daughters and their families. Estimated 1.7 million wireless devices. Many of us have more than one, so it's, our saturation is somewhere in excess of 100%. In Texas, some European countries, it's well over 150%. So everybody has at least 1.5 wireless devices. As I mentioned, we answered 2 million 911 calls in 2012. Over 80% of those calls were from wireless phones, and last month, 82.9% of all calls were from a wireless device of some type. Our budget in particular, overall, the district expenditures have increased less than 1% this year. This modest increase is due to rolling forward unspent P25 radio assistance funds at the request of the Regional Interoperable Communications Committee, and Eric Worsel from the IT department sits on that committee, and we very much appreciate all of his assistance. Expenditures for enhancements, including growth, moves, and changes for our member entities, an expanded training program, as I mentioned before, including some new state-mandated training that we're ramping up to be able to provide to our member entities at no cost. We have included a 3% merit pool for all employees. As I mentioned earlier, our new customer premise, our customer-provided equipment, we have included the first year of a 3-year program on that contained within our budget. We have also included $3 million, which is earmarked for the PSAP, Public Safety Answering Point, and P25 radio assistance programs. As you see on the screen, our budget, in the most simplistic of terms, we anticipate receiving revenue from all service fees of $14.2 million. We'll be rolling forward from FY13 $398,000. We will be making an $8.8 million transfer from our equipment reserve fund and have total expenditures estimated at about $23.5 million. At the end of the year, we anticipate having a remaining equipment reserve of about $14 million, which will be spent over the next, over 15 and 16. I have provided you a complete budget packet for your review. This packet contains specific information about our revenues and expenditures. It also contains a 5-year forecast, and at the judge's request a few years ago, an audited balance sheet. While it's very difficult or even impossible to project future costs, I feel confident we have enough reserves to meet our next upgrade demands that we are in process, as I mentioned earlier. As I have said many times, we have to be able to plan today to implement technology tomorrow that hasn't even been thought of yet. If I may, while I have the podium, and with your indulgence, I would like to report a program that we started a few years ago. The PSAP, Public Safety Answering Point, and last year expanded to include interoperable radio assistance programs. Under these programs, the district has funded approximately $6 million worth of projects within our member jurisdictions. The Sheriff's Office, I'm having trouble with the keyboard this morning. The Sheriff's Office has received nearly $67,000 in PSAP assistance funds. As well, last year, the IT department received about $21,000 for radio infrastructure. Additionally, we have awarded about $80,000 in projects for the Tarrant County Fire Alarm through the reappropriation of unrequested funds at year-end. Through the cooperation of our board and the leadership of Randy Renoir, the district has provided fire alarm funding for a new voice recorder, emergency medical dispatch card sets and training, and this year, new dispatch console furniture. As you can well imagine, this program has been very well received, and we look forward to continuing in this fiscal year. Your Honor, I'll be happy to answer any questions you or the commissioners may have concerning our budget, and I certainly appreciate your continued support.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thanks, Brent.
When are you going to open up the facility out at my office?
It's first to get my tongue untangled here, first quarter of next calendar year. The equipment will be installed there, and it will be one of the first 3 sites that comes online.
Do you have the capability to accept texting yet? 911 texting?
We do not. We are not participating in the pilot programs that are going on at the moment. There is no text to 911 program that is industry-wide yet. The ones that are occurring, Wise County, for instance, and Collin County, are all trials. We're participating in those and watching those, and this generation of equipment that we're installing will be capable when that time occurs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Members of the Court, we can now go to item E. This is an update from Public Health. Dr. Brewer is here to address the Court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Brewer.
I have several items for your interest today. The first is that late last week we received notice that our additional 4 1115 waiver projects have been approved.
Excellent.
And we will bring you an in-depth briefing about the progress being made on those projects. Late October is when we would like to do it because we should have our October metrics in and our feedback back from CMS by then, so that's why we'd like to do it then. And those projects are our Health Information Exchange Project, our PRIDE project, our TB medication project, and our STD expansion project. So we're really happy about that, and I can't say enough about all the hard work of our staff involved in making that happen. Next week we'll bring you, for your approval,
a new project. We've been encouraged to submit an additional project, and that will be one on fall prevention, falling down prevention. It's called Matter of Balance, and so we'll bring that in next week for you to hear about. Okay, West Nile virus. For the week of September 7th through the 13th, we had 152 mosquito pools that were submitted to the lab. One sample from South Lake tested positive for West Nile virus. We had no positive samples for St. Louis encephalitis. To date, we've had a total of 23 positive samples. We have tested over 3,155 samples. Human case activity, we had some late breaking activity there at the end of the week. So we have 2 additional human cases. One was neuroinvasive and one was a fever. Both of these were in Fort Worth. One was south of Hewlin Mall and one was south of LeGrand Plaza. We are working with the city of Fort Worth. They are putting out additional traps in the areas, and they will see what happens with the test results from there to determine what they will do for follow-up. In addition, they're doing some neighborhood outreach and education in those areas.
Are we following the neuroinvasive case? Do we know how that person is?
I don't know that right now. I'll try to find that out for you. That brings our total number of human cases to 4 for this season, and we have no deaths at this time. I'll try to find that out.
Thank you.
Pertussis, last week, Russ Jones reported to you that we had 440 cases. This week we're up to 446. So we did have 6 additional cases. Out of that total, 92 are 12 months or younger. Out of that total, 446, 39 cases have been hospitalized. 33 of those 39 were 12 months and younger. Measles, no new cases. And then flu, we had a very good event last week. Commissioner Brooks was our moderator and one of our vaccine receivers for a flu vaccine, and Mayor Price and Walgreens Pharmacy and Tarrant County Public Health. Flu season is starting. There is vaccine in the community. We have vaccine in our 6 public health centers. Pharmacies have it. Many places are carrying flu vaccine. We don't have any specific information about any problems with vaccine this year or any unusual circumstances, but of course with flu you never know. You just have to get into the season and see what it's going to bring.
First off, I think we need to thank Walgreens Pharmacy. They provided us with a list of locations throughout the county where they are willing to give flu shots free of charge to people who either can't afford it or don't have insurance. That is excellent corporate citizenship. And there was a second thing, but that has gone away. So I'll just say oops. And
Okay. Well, thank you for mentioning that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Members of the court, that's all we have this morning. Plus, we do not have any items in closed session, so we are not going to go into closed session today.
With that, then, we will again close our meeting in observance of the victims of the Navy Yard. We're adjourned.